What is up, everyone? Pittsburgh White Shorts coming at you with some Avatar decks. This is our usual multi-deck tech that we do when a new set comes out, where we all kind of throw something together. I'm joined today by Andy.
What's up, guys?
Unfortunately, Brian and Tyler could not make it this week. They are hard at work with Tanner and some of our other locals practicing for One Piece Regionals this weekend in Columbus. So good luck to them. Hopefully they do well, just like they did in Weiss in New Jersey. That would be pretty sick. They're going out pretty strong with like a 20-person group out there because they're lucky to have one that's right over in Columbus. But that's beside the point. Let's get to these Avatar decks. We'll jump right into it. I'm going to start with 8-bar Toph. Again, these are like smoke tests, some just basic builds, some good building block. This one is definitely like one of the more canned ones, I think, right, Andy? You'd agree with that? It's like there's so many cards that you have to play to make this work.
Yeah, the 8-bar deck seems like pretty self-contained and seems like it kind of builds itself to an extent.
Yeah.
Like for the main combo pieces, like there's a lot of like bar supports and stuff that like works specifically with gold bar. So if you're playing the Toph finisher combo, you're definitely incentivized to play the level 1 Toph as well. I don't think you necessarily have to, but it pushes you that way. So it seems like a good starting point for like a first impression.
Yeah, I forgot one of the Toph backups there. I was looking. Got to run 4 of that. Got to run 4 of the other ones, kind of like Kanata, where this card changes into your 3/2. We went over that in the set review. The rest of it's just going to be supporting it. You got to have these early act cards like the bar filter here, as well as the TD UA that can you tap it to give something 1500 power, which is pretty good, especially with your Aang, Clock Kick, Hololive stuff early, which is pretty good. Gonna see a lot of the Sakuriki in pretty much every deck. It's like your go-to plussing card. You can plus at 2 different timing, even if it's just another 0, just to give you something. The Aang here, because we talked about this in the set review, the Toph combo, it's gonna add a lot of zeros to your hand, so you have to have good zeros to pick up. This is probably the best one because it can always filter into either combo piece, whether you need the backup or the 3/2, since that stuff all changes basically based off your hand. A couple act support cards. The Chibi Toph box topper is actually really cool. When you act, it gets on reverse pay 1 salvage, so you can do that on your opponent's turn and possibly salvage a piece that you're missing, which is pretty nice. With a backup, if you're like, or just cards for your next turn. If you see you're gonna stay at 1, you can back up, win a lane, grab a playable for the next turn, which is pretty cool. But yeah, pretty simple deck. You got to have the filters in here, the passive climax filters, because Avatar's general hand filters not very good. Like we said, the Aang is like a good filter, but it's a straight minus. You got a -2 cards to salvage, and then the other filters are just on trigger. I did throw the Spamble in here. That's definitely cuttable. I saw that there might be a deck speed issue later in the game. I thought that would be a nice thing to just have, bam it out, keep going, because your Toph can generate stock if you get into a bad deck state. It's kind of like a 1-card deck speed patch. Got the good counters. Katara a lot better in this deck. I'll talk about Katara later when we get to the other deck that I have unfortunately not had a chance to test this one yet. I've been playing a different build, but this one pretty simple starting point to get started with totally not Kanata Marine. All right, Andy, you got any questions about the Toph build? No, I went through that one pretty quick.
Yeah, I got you. It looks super solid overall. Pretty much the core of it is like, again, it's very much like the Kanata Marine deck for Hololive, where you have the level 1 backup there. It changed from field into your level 3 Toph. So that's why you're running the full 4 backups, which is kind of odd to see otherwise.
Yeah, you gotta get those into your hand to get those down.
You want to get multiples off. The only other question I had was why are you running the level 0 Aang, like the first one in the top left there, the 3500? I hand over like another card just because it's green.
It's good, easily levelable green, and I think the oversize options are just kind of bad in general in Avatar. There was really no reason to play the TD 4K. I don't think you really gain a lot by playing it in this deck, and because you have these acts, right, to throw it to 4K or even bigger like 5K, you can remove stuff like Aqua, like cards that need to get reversed to get abilities. You can just kick those off the field, and you also have the ability to just slam down cards to the back row in this deck. You have 6 things that you can just slam down. Actually, you have more than that. You have 8 because you have the Aang. You don't mind slamming that down either. You can slam any card in this deck alongside that Aang to make sure that he's 35, and then just start clock punting stuff, which can be pretty strong in English because there's so much Hololive running around, as well as just other random on death and on reverse effects. You just get rid of it.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot more Hololive going forward too once the second
Yeah.
set comes out.
Let's move on to yours. You had the extremely difficult task.
I had the hard job.
Yeah.
I brought it upon myself though. So, or color avatar, or as I like to say, how magnets work.
How magnets work.
Yeah, magnetism fully realized. Talked a lot about the level 3 Aang combo in the set review. How, you know, on paper it reads like if you can get all the colors with it, it's like really good, but it can be hard to do that. So it takes like a lot of deck building prowess to like get the right ratios, which is why you look at this deck, it's kind of all over the place. Like a lot of 1-ofs, 2-ofs, 3-ofs, but that's mostly just for the color fixing. The level 1 event helps us cheat on color throughout the game, but at the end of the day, when we're going for the Aang finisher, we still need to be milling cards of the certain color. So it's definitely challenging to build a functional deck. Like you have to have a lot of workarounds. A lot of concessions have to be made to get like the right split of colors, and it takes a bit of finesse to build. This is like my first impression of it. I would definitely say like out of any of the 3 lists we're going over today, this is the one that would be like most subject to change. And if you change any little bit of it, then the rest of it has to shift around it too, right? For example, I've seen some people run the choice finisher with like the level 1 bar combo, but at that point you'd have to switch like the whole level 0 around to like get access to more like blue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, to mix the colors around.
But just for the first build, I try to keep it as close to like even as far as ratios as possible. So counting the climaxes and everything, there's 18 yellow, 13 blue, 10 green, and 9 red. Red was like definitely the hardest to fit in. So starting off, I have 3 copies of the trial deck Aang, the one that Carmen said he was considering playing but ended up not playing in his deck. It's a 4K Futaba when you hit the top check to get the marker. I chose to run this as the oversize, or as like instead of other plussing cards. Like I ended up cutting the JC for this, which is like I felt so bad doing that, but I just needed the spots. And specifically, in order to get the event to go to your memory, you need to have an Aang on field. And this is like probably the beefiest level 0 that has Aang in its name. And I think it's probably one of the best field pluses in the set regardless. You get the utility of the top check throughout the game, and 4K is pretty big. But it's also named Aang, so coming into our level 1 turn, where we start getting into color hell, having like blue, red, yellow all at level 1, and then green at level 2, we need to get that event card in the memory so that all of our stuff can be played regardless of color. So having that Aang live, so then we can put the event in memory, is like super important. Then 3 copies of the Zuko Ricky. He is on play. He gets 2,000 power when you top check, and it's like look at 3 Ricky. So when you play him, you pay 1. You look at the top 3 of your deck, put 1 of them into your block, and then you salvage. So since we're running the level 1 combo here, the blue Sokka that needs an experience condition, the look at 3 Ricky is actually kind of nice because it lets us like dig for like a level 3 to put into our clock, which we can then put into our level. Ideally, I think you'd probably want one of your level 3 Aangs to go into your level zone first. So you have yellow, so you can play the event, and then everything's colorless essentially. Depending on how your hand looks, you might want to throw a Katara in there or some blue. But yeah, the Zuko Ricky feels pretty good here, and that's why we're running that instead of the Sokka Ricky. 3 copies of Suki. She bonds to our level 1 combo, so discard on play to grab a copy of your level 1 combo from your waiting room back to your hand. And she's also like a quote-unquote field plus as well. When she gets reversed, you reveal the top card of your deck, and it's level 2 or higher, it pops back to your hand. So it's like a coin flip plus. That being stapled to the bond effect is really nice. And part of the reason why I went with this level 1 combo for the 4-color deck is because it just splits your colors nicely. The Suki being green, the Sokka being blue is really, really nice, and it helps you meet your required amount of green in a way that doesn't feel bad. It feels good to be able to fit the green in that way. Getting in some more green, 3 copies of the Toph Brainstorm, it's just the best brainstorm in the set and the easiest way for us to shoehorn in some more green. 2 copies of Momo. If it wasn't for the shuffle, he has a very important effect. When you play him, you can shuffle back 2 characters from your graveyard back into your deck, and then give a soul to one of your characters. This is really important leading into our finisher turn with the Aang, where we're milling cards trying to hit all 4 colors. So if we're in like a low deck state, we can cherry pick and select which ones we're sending back to our deck. So you kind of like have an idea what you're out, and you can like, if you need more red, you can send more red back, or like any combination. So that's a really important fact, and why I'm running 2 copies of that. And he's a climax swap, so always good. Yeah, especially when you're running pants. 2 copies of this Katara. I mean, she's not super great, but you need it for your finisher to be good. It lets your Aang mill an extra card for your finisher turn, which is very important. But it also has the nice effect. You can, or just constant 1500 power to your center lane, which is great with your early plays. I originally had 3 of this in the deck, but just the way the card is worded, like we joked about it during the set review that it read like a custom card.
Yeah, it just doesn't work if you have another copy on the board at all.
Yeah, it's like even worse than just like not stacking, right?
Yeah, it
I feel like they wanted
detriments you for having more than one on board.
Yeah, like I get that they wanted to like you can't go more than 5, but if you have 2 of these on the field, you don't even get the extra 1.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be clogging on these. But it's definitely a card that as it comes into your hand, you probably want to like hold on to it because you need it for your kill turn. 1 copy of the Aang Drop Search. He sits at 3,000 on your field and drop searches, so some nice deck access because most of our deck is salvaging. And he's a beefy blue Aang at level 0, so good blue fix and a good beefy Aang. And then we got a Randy Iroh, Leaves from the Vine, just 1 copy because that's all I could really fit. Primal 500 assist, and you can pay 1 sack him, look at 4 cards from the top of your deck for a character. So if you get a chance to salvage this off a Brainstorm, it can like help you get through your deck because I believe Carmen mentioned in green, but Avatar has some notable deck speed issues. But since the level 1 Sokka combo is like going through 3 cards each on its own, the Zuko Ricky is going through 3 cards. I'd say we probably have a little bit more deck speed in this build than most, and we have the level 1 event that goes through 4. So yeah, that's why I'm comfortable with only.
This one should be fine. Yeah.
But I still think it.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say I still think it's worth having as like a 1-of just to be able to pick up off a Brainstorm or like a Drop Search if you like really need to like go through 4 cards. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say yeah, it's like the same thing as I threw the spammable in the other deck. It's like, but here you have other mill cards. You don't need one that can process like up to 12 or something. This is just like 1, get it off the board, play something else. That's probably more than enough since you have the event here, and you're playing the Zuko Ricky for first deck, which is nice.
Yeah, and I mean this Iroh, I mean you could turn it into another Zuko Ricky if you wanted to. The other thing I was considering was like the level 0 Zuko that's if he's alone on your field, he's 4,500 power and plus a level. It's just as like a 1-of to open with it. But I think this is probably like the best red flex spot. I think red's like the toughest color to fit in for sure. So the Iroh is pretty good. Yep, moving into the level 1s. I'm going to talk about the event card here first. Like I said before, you need an Aang on the field to play it, so it's very important to either have one of your like 4K Aangs live back to your turn, or to be able to have another Aang to like play down you hit level 1, or when you want to play this card throughout the game. But on play, or when you play the event, you get to look at the top 4 of your deck, choose a character, add it to your hand, and then the event goes to your memory. And as long as the event's in your memory for the rest of the game, all your climaxes and all your characters can be played without color requirement. And that's even if you don't have an Aang on the field. You need an Aang to play the card initially, but when it's in your memory, you don't need an Aang on your field anymore, unless you want to play another copy of the event. But that's pretty important. Again, I think the goal is to probably level a level 3 Aang, so to meet your experience condition for Sokka and get yellow for this event, then play the event card, and then you can just play everything without worrying about color for the rest of the game. But the Sokka combo here, I think that's probably like the best plussing combo the set has access to. Swings for 7,500 with the climax. You need experience for it. You need experience too. But it's on attack. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck for an event or an avatar character, add it to your hand, and he gets 500 power. So great at helping you with your deck speed. It's off of a good trigger, helps us meet the blue requirement for the deck, and throughout the game you should be able to continuously like play these. You can kind of loop them to an extent because these Sokkas can like grab Suki level 0s like when you're milling for them, right? And then you play the Suki next turn, get yourself another Sokka, go off again with the combo. So it can kind of like loop into itself, which is super nice. The Suki is like really great to pair with that, I think.
Yeah, I think it makes the combo, like, again, Avatar also has a filter issue, like a costless filter issue. There's no Rico, there's no Arisu, there's no easy way to get rid of cards, especially climaxes. There's some other filters. I know we talked about the players package. I'll talk about that a little later as well. That has to ditch character to spawn the other one to field. There's a lot of ditch character. There's not a lot of ditch general. One of the best ditch generals in the set is actually this Suki. Even though the Sokka has to be in your grave to filter, it's one of the best ones that you can play.
I mean, it just works so well with the Sokka too, and the fact that she's a plussing level 0 is even better. Like if it pops back to your hand, then you can play it down on your level 1 turn, discard a card, grab a Sokka if you need to. And then rounding out level 1s, I have 2 copies of this level 1 Aang. He's there because he's red and because he is named Aang. So help you have an Aang on field to play your event card. And he gives you a nice filter effect as well. So on play, he gets 500 times the number of your characters. So on a full field, he'd come down at 7k. So a nice auxiliary level 1 attacker. And when he reverses his opponent, you get to draw a card and then discard a card. So good way to, nice filter effect stapled to a 7k attacker that provides some nice red fix for the deck. Going on to level 2s then. 2 copies of Tough High Society, which is a 2k assist to our level 3s, and then also has a really nice filter effect on it as well. So when you trigger a climax, you can discard any card to reveal the top card of your deck and salvage a character in your waiting room of the revealed card's level or lower. So a nice Rico effect on climax trigger, and it works really nicely with Pants and Choice here because you get to add the card back to your hand before you discard. So if it's Pants, you can add the climax to your hand, and then if you don't want the climax, you can discard it to Toph to reveal the top card of your deck. And like an issue with Choice is that you can't always grab your lower level cards. You can only grab things with soul triggers on it. So if you wanted to grab, let's say, like a level 0, you could use the Choice trigger to add a soul trigger back to your hand, and then discard that soul trigger to Toph to reveal the top card of your deck and get a lower level card that way. So kind of turns your choices into doors in a janky way if you want it, and also helps you. It's really nice with Pants. And then she has like another effect. She has a rest effect to choose one of your characters, give 500 power cross turn. It's not like as relevant in this build, but still nice nonetheless, especially with the Toph Brainstorm. One copy of the Avatar State Aang. This is like the weird one where if you have a climax down, he gets the same trigger as your climax when he's in your deck. And it works with choices and Pants. So if you trigger this card while you have a climax down, it acts like a choice or a Pants, which is nice. But he's there mostly for his second effect, which is if you clock him and going into your attack step, if you have 4 more characters, you get the top card of your deck to your stock for free. So I like it as something you can pick up off of your choice triggers. Ideally, I'd probably want to run more of this, but again, the space in this build specifically is so tight, color requirements, that I really only justify the 1 copy. But nevertheless, I think it's really good to have with choice triggers. And then 2 different counters here. We have the one that Carmen had in the Toph deck, pretty much the anti-change counter that's pretty much going to be in every Avatar deck. It's just such a premium cost on that anti-change effect that you don't see printed too often. So it's really great that Avatar got that. And 1 copy of the Zuko mill counter. Initially, I had the blue memory kit counter in there instead, but as I was finalizing the build, I just needed a little bit more red. So that's why I'm going with this counter instead. But I am generally a fan of the mill 5 counters. I know not everyone is, but I think they're pretty good. But memory kick is very good right now, so definitely another option you could consider. Getting into the level 3s, I have 5 early plays here that will pair nicely with your Toph back row. 2 copies of the Katara, which is a clock to stock heal. It also gets a bunch of power on your opponent's turn as well, so really good for holding field. Kind of the opposite of that here is the Zuko, who gets a lot of power on turn. So he early plays if your opponent has a level 3 already, and on your turn he gets 5,000 power, and your opponent can't play backups or events. He also has like a pay 1 on reverse burn as well, so he's kind of like a good off finisher if you can only get 2 Aangs off. But again, mostly there for the red fix, and he is a nice what's the word I'm looking for? He's like a nice foil to the Katara. Like they do the same thing but on different turns, I guess. And then 1 copy of the Aang early play. He early plays with 2 or less climaxes, and he top checks your deck equal to the number of characters you have. Yeah, so nice suite of early plays here, all with different conditions, which I love. And then going into the true level 3s of the deck, 4 copies of the Aang combo, and just to go over how this works again, when you attack with him, you can pay 1, discard 1, and then mill the top 4 of your deck. You get to mill the top 5 if you have the Katara in your back row, the level 0, so make sure you have that. And for the number of colors you hit, you get to do effects. So if you hit at least 2 colors, you choose 2 cards in their waiting room, shuffle them back to their deck. Then if you have hit 3 or more, you deal 3 damage to your opponent. Then if you have 4 or more, you send the top card of your opponent's deck to their clock. So ideally, you want to hit all 4 colors, so you get all of those effects. And again, it's definitely important going into your final deck with the Avatar build to kind of like take inventory of like what you're shuffling back in your deck, like see like what ratios you have going back for your refresh. That way you can know like if you play like a Momo down and can shuffle some cards back, you know what colors you're trying to hit back. But it's definitely something where you need to be tracking, or it definitely is to your benefit to be tracking the colors of cards going back into your deck for your final deck. Kind of the same way a lot of decks will like be counting how many soul triggers they go back, etc. But definitely the coolest card in the set, and I think it's definitely worth giving a shot and building around. And 1 copy of the Toph stock swap. Every good deck has a stock swap.
Yep. Well, What
do you think, Carmen?
I got a couple questions.
It's definitely like a weird build.
I think the 2/1 Aang at 1 copy is a waste of a slot. I think that should be just completely cut. That is a 4 or 0 card, I'm pretty sure. After just a little bit of testing with it. Because kind of like the Himari bomb, right? That was like a 3 or 4 or a 0. But like this one even more so, it has no on play effect. Did you know that this card has no soul? I realized that the other night when I had to play it down for a stock out. That card does no damage if it ever has to hit the board.
That's weird. I don't know if that's intended, is it?
No, it isn't. intended. It's like it's a balancing thing. It wouldn't have any power. It'd have like 5, like for some reason this card had to be 1,000 power. So however they worked it out, could not get any smaller without not having a soul. So I think it should just be another Aang event. It's to preserve your color because you have to hit that event. My only other comment is like the Zuko, the 3/2 Zuko. Unfortunately, we have no idea when that card will exist. We have no idea how we'll get it. If anybody knows, let us know in the comments. That's like a promo that showed up on the Weiss site, like the official DB, but we have no way know how to get that card yet. I hope we find out soon because I think that card is really good. Like Andy said, I like that one a lot, especially for Avatar because their mid game isn't very good. I like that card a lot for shoring it up.
I think especially for like the 4-color build, I think like he's probably some of the best red fix you have.
Yeah, I think that like, I don't know. We talked about this in the set review, so I won't dwell too much on it again. I don't know if trying to even out your colors completely is the right way to go about trying to play this Aang finisher, because you can do all this work and make all these concessions and it's still not going to do a lot, like mathematically, for like making the Aang work, because over the course of the entire game it's just going to be a coin flip anyway. So I don't know if going to the great length has a payoff, but it's probably worth testing, and this is a good enough place to start. The only thing I would do is I would probably just play an extra 1/1 event, because I'm going to talk about that right now, getting into the next deck, because that is something I have played and considered already, and I want to talk about it. So we all good? Anything else on this one?
No, I think that pretty much just about covers it.
All right. So what I threw together was Pants Standby. It's called Cats Can Have a Little Salami as a treat. Familiar with that meme, because we were playing the salami profile here, this Aang attacking with water. That is a card from Little Busters, where if you mill, you have force mill 3. If you hit 3 different colors, you add any card revealed from among those cards to your hand. Can add climax, can add events, doesn't matter. My first experience playing Avatar, it was extremely obvious to me after playing a lot of Chainsaw Man recently. I've been testing a lot of Chainsaw Man, testing a lot of Leica Reco, testing a lot of upcoming English sets that have, recently released Japanese, just kind of messing around in this interim period, and especially coming off of playing something like Alice, something like Sao 10th anime anniversary. Avatar, in terms of its hand filter, hand fix, and deck speed, feels like playing a deck from 2 years ago. I was sitting at locals and I was looked to my left, and Brian was playing Door Bar ReZero, which is about 2 years old, and I was jealous of his ability to hand filter with that set compared to playing Avatar. So that is something that needs addressed in every build. You need to think about deck speed, because we don't have something like a Chiuri or a Fuka Zero, some sort of on death mill, some sort of even an on reverse Rize. I would take an on reverse Rize in that deck. People who have watched this channel a lot should know that hearing me say that is a completely ridiculous statement, because I hate that profile. I would happily play 4 of an on reverse Rize in Avatar if it had the ability to do so, because your early hand filter meant you draw too many climaxes, you draw too many heavy cards, you are done. You are donezo. You need a way to get those cards out of your hand, and you need a way to process your first deck. You need a way to filter unplayable cards into possibly deck speed, which is something that all modern sets can do that Avatar really struggles with in some of the early builds. So I was talking with a couple people, a couple ideas, smoke test a couple things, shadow box a couple decks, and sort of amalgamated things from like I was talking with Dean. This sort of came up from Kevin's original list, Kilua, and I sort of came up with this, and this is where I'm going to go from here. And I'm going to talk about each of my choices. So I already talked about why I play the Aang in the Toph deck. Same reason here, and it's just also a green, where I'm trying to balance my colors a little bit. I'm not overtly concerned about it, because the reason I want to play Salami is for the mill. But if we're going to be slamming Salami a lot, having that extra color in the deck is very nice. For Sokka, again, best plus in the set on play and on death, plus also has a lot of synergy with our finisher, which a lot of other content creators covered. I'll talk about that when I get to the Azula. You have ways to push extra attacks. You don't want to use Sokka like IMA. You're not pushing extra attacks in the mid game. Even when it happens, it's like almost never worth it, unless you can like randomly randomly spawn out another Sokka combo with the climax already down, and it like mills out your deck after you triggered your last climax or some sort of ridiculous scenario. It's never worth it to do it in the mid game, because taking that extra damage sucks. You want to do it on your finisher turn where either, you know, they die or you're dead. So that's when damage doesn't matter. 3 of the Zuko Riki, just because again, I don't like the field pluses that much. Additional plussing card, a little bit of early deck speed and some extra red. Also a way to kill cards, another way to kill cards in Avatar, because this card gets power on play as well as revealing your top trigger. If a card that you want to move or something like that, or maybe you can see a climax because the off brainstorm scries after you brainstorm in this deck a lot of the time. The kicks on act, it's just something there. 3 Salami, this is our deck speed card. Again, I talked about the first effect. Second effect is also super relevant. You notice this has a bunch of different colors in this deck, and we aren't playing the 1/1 event. I'm going to talk about that when we get to level 1, but the other really important line on this text is every time you slam this card down, and you're going to be doing it a lot, because this is a level 0 you can filter in that you're going to slam down that might randomly plus you, that you're going to use for deck control. You can exchange the bottom card of your clock with any character in your waiting room, allowing you to set color on your turn for not only upcoming experience from 0 into 1, but also colors you want to play on your turn for a dual color level 1, multicolor level 2, something like that. It's a really powerful effect, and I think overall it is better than playing the 1/1 event at all, because this card also gives you deck speed and gives you that color fixing for free in the moment on that turn. 3 Toph Brainstorm, already talked about that. Already gushed about the Suki in the last Andy's deck tech there. I agree on all points. Card's the best proactive filter in the set. One of the only ways to filter out climaxes. Did you know that this set doesn't have a ditch climax salvage? No, it doesn't. Little stuff like that. Avatar is just randomly missing. And then 1 Momo. Pretty good here. We can use the shuffle back Sokkas, but you never even really need to do that. One of the best parts about Sokka, with the intent to use it on your finisher turn only to extend your finishing power, is that you don't really need to play into it at all. It just kind of happens. You get the extra attacks that you get, and you don't have to set it up very hard, but you can shuffle back Sokkas to give some soul to your Azula. This is from a standby, so it can give you a little bit of extra push in lanes that you need. Going into level 1, we talked about the Sokka level 1 combo, really good. We can use our Sokka Riki to set experience, which is what we are going to do. We can use Salami and Sokka in conjunction to make sure that we hit our experience here, because it doesn't really matter what color we level when we can slam another, you know, blue for it. Like we level it 0/6 on our turn using the Sokka as it clocks ourselves, and then we clock another card, and then we can use Salami to filter a blue card in and go that way. This 1/0 Aang, I slammed this card in the set review. You're probably very interested as to why this is in the deck. Again, deck speed is a problem. Deck speed is a massive problem. This card on play force mills 4. I was always like 1 4-card mill off in Avatar from ever hitting refresh timing when I needed it. And a card like this where it comes down and it's probably just a 6/5 attacker, maybe it gets Twin Drive, you never get the stock off this card, and that's never the reason why you play it. A 6/5 maybe Twin Driver that just mills 4 cards is like exactly what you need. I'm not playing the event because even with the caveat that you can level one of these 2/1 Avatar Aangs, because that's something in the like list that I was talking about with Dean. Even though you can level one of these 2/1 Avatar State Aangs, and that's a really good card to level to hit your experience, and then play the event, that play pattern sucks. Having to play an event where the Bonder is like a box topper, where like I only have one of it to test with, and it's a drop Bonder, which means the card has to be in your grave. It doesn't rip the event out of deck. Having to have that event in your hand before you go for your level 1 combo at all is such a terrible, incredibly shaky, inconsistent like game plan that like there's just got to be something better. And I think this 1/0 Aang is just 100% better than that. It mills the same amount of cards. It is force mill, but then you have the Sokka to do a variable mill after the fact. And yes, that is still like a 2-color play, but it's a 2-color play that doesn't require you to have an event that you're gonna have to like rip off the top to add to your hand and pay a stock for to get into you know, your normal level 1 line here, especially when you have stuff like the Bonder and other things like that. You can like play down the Aang first, mill a Sokka, play a Suki, grab the Sokka, go into your combos there. I like the lines there a lot better than trying to force play that event first. And similarly, that's why I didn't like cut all these. Like you're thinking like, oh well, like the players is pretty good, the like 4/4 line of players. You play the 4 Aang players and the 4 Sokka players, and then you get like usually a 5k Aang Aang, and then that Aang lives, and you can use that as the Aang because that gains the name Aang on board to then play the event. And that was like fine. Having the Aang with the players in the deck wasn't the issue. It was like having the event and having my combo and having my pants by level 1 while also hitting experience. It's just way too much. It's too fucking much to put together. So this was my solution to that. Before I move into the rest of the deck, you got any questions about that first half of the deck, Andy? Because I'm sure you probably do.
I do, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
But first of all, I want to mention I forgot that the Chibi Aang was a card.
Yeah, I forgot it was a card until like a day or two ago as well.
Yeah, so like go back to the last slide for a second.
Sure thing.
My deck, I completely forgot that Chibi Aang was a card, but I would probably put it in the deck as like the same spot as one of the 4K Aangs. I'd probably like to have like a one of that Chibi Aang instead of the third, fourth K. Yeah, that just slipped my mind. And he's an Aang in name too, so that's probably good. I'll reflect that in the Encore list I post. I'll throw something on there for that. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But other comments about your list so far, I really like the fact that the 2/1 Aang, the avatar state, that he fills your experience condition for you. I actually really like that. You need experience too, so I mean that's super nice. I guess what were my other questions here? I guess the other thing too is like why the Zuko? Like that's a lot of Rickies. It's like 7 Rickies.
It's
and then the one Ricky goes twice even, and like it seems like you already have a lot of ability to like you have the Sukis that also bond your Sokkas, so it's not necessarily imperative that you Ricky for the Sokka. But I was wondering like why not try to fit like the JC in there?
The name of the game right now is Trifield. If you don't have a deck that can Trifield on your first turn, like going second, I don't think you can hack it. Like in the upcoming meta where you will be playing Avatar, I think it is gonna be really hard to survive. So what my thought process here is, if I go first, I have 8 cards that are acceptable to slam down, maybe even 11 if you count the Salami as a card you could slam down, which you could, or even the Suki. That's like you have 10 to 11 acceptable go first plays, and if you go second, you can easily slam oversized Aang, Sokka, and a Salami or any other card. And yeah, you could do that with the JC, but another thing that's upcoming that I'm seeing, like with Chainsaw Man and other things, and Hololive still going to be around, hard removal bombs that can just completely fuck your JC are, when you need that plus, because I think Avatar really needs that plus, are going to be like, it's pretty bad. And if you lose the Sokka, you only lose one timing of it. It's on play and on death. So like, I think losing that one to maybe a hard removal bomb is acceptable, but the rest of it, I want to be able to Trifield every single game.
Well, the Zuko's an on play Ricky.
Yeah, the Zuko is on play, but he also.
So if you go first and slam it, you can't Ricky.
No, you cannot. But he's in there as like, you know, an additional option to add a little bit of red for our Salami hits, but can also provide some burst deck mill as well as setting our experience card to just try to get some into level. Because the way that I was playing like with experience with Sokka before, and in these lists where like I don't really play a blue experience target, and I'm gonna get into why. It's because I'm playing Azula. I don't want to play that Katara in this deck because I don't have a blue target for my necessary experience. I am going to be aggressively using both timings of Sokka if I have to, even on turn, playing over the card to set my color and experience because it's that important. Because after you have it, you can really just loop and roll the Sokka the rest of the game, and that's what I think is good about it. It's a line worth doing, but it's just something that I just don't want to deal with. And including the Katara in the list is like, I've thought about it. It could probably go on that Aang slot, but the card is actually so detrimental to your strategy that playing Azula, that I just don't want it anywhere near the deck after playing it with a little bit.
Okay. I mean, I guess the only other thing, I mean, is that I'm surprised you went for the 1/0 Aang. I figured you'd go more for like the level 0 Ira that I had in the 4-color deck.
Yeah, this one's costless. This one's costless. You probably, like, more often than not, he's always just a 6/5. But if you do get the twin drive, and I think that probably happens like a third of the time, about, like, I mathed it out, it's about a third of the time you get the twin drive. The twin drive's pretty good for paying out triggers and pushing more fake triggers, right? And that leads really well into the rest of the deck, because you have the 2/1 Aang. Because you have extra fake triggers, paying out your real triggers is really nice, because you can get these extra effects. Adding back the standby is pretty dead until the finisher turn, but adding back a pants to go for a Sokka combo again is actually really strong, because Sokka gets pretty big because he's going to swing in at 8k. But we can get into the rest of the deck here. So yeah, 2 on Aang. I said I think this is like a 3 to 4 to 0 profile. Slam this in the deck. It makes 4 standby not feel as bad from kind of like level 2 onwards. You have plays you can make with standby. In the early game, it's just all about playing a normal 1k1 style deck, but it does let you like kind of feel one way or another by just throwing 4 in it, and it's a really good target for experience because, again, the card's like unfieldable. You always just clock it if it comes into your hand, and you just want to like get it out of there, filter it out, or put it in your clock as quickly as possible, just because it gives you stock. Even better if you get the twin drive. You usually know your top card if you brainstorm on that turn, because of the Toph brainstorm, so you have a good idea of whether or not that card is clean, which is like a problem with this profile in the past, because you would like try to find a way to pay it out immediately if you were going to use it in your strategy, because like the blind stock at the beginning of your attacks is always such a liability. You bury a climax there, 4 cards down, it's basically gone. So you really want to avoid that if possible. 2 of the Ty Lee, because we have to play it. Card's not really that great. It's like Bride for a Day Saya. It's a fine role player. It's the card we bring out with standby if we hit a standby at 1. We just park it in the back row and it never goes away. The 2/2 Iroh, this is an interesting card. It's like an 8/5. It gives all of your other characters 1500, and then it has an effect where if you ever trigger a soul trigger, you can give a character, I believe it's 1500. I don't believe it's 2k. I'll make it bigger here to check. It's 1500 power, yeah. So you can give any character 1500 power when you trigger a soul trigger. This is just for the matchups where we need to bust down walls with Azula because she's an on-reverse combo. In those matchups, it's pretty much accepted that even if you punt the level 2 game entirely, you are never getting triple combo because your opponent will either like have multiple backups or something like that. This is the card for those matchups to just help you get a little bit of extra power to win those lanes. Anti-change counter, we don't have many opportunities to play it in this list because we kind of concede the level 2, but we keep it in the list because it's super efficient. If we ever have the chance to play it, our opponent will play around it because they know that we can do it and not be affected. So it's kind of like a best card you never need to play in this kind of list.
I guess
yeah,
in a pinch too, you could go for the anti-change effect just to like sack a character off on your field to make sure there's a lane for the Azula to reverse. It's like super like fringe, but I mean I could see that come up.
Yep, it's always one of the upsides of Amelia counter. And then getting into the finisher, I'll talk about Azula last. 2 of the Aang early play, it has worse timing and it's not a healer, but I played the Katara. Even though the Katara is small on its swing and it only plays for 1 stock, ditch a hand, I really hated it. It always felt like a card that was like playing against what the Azula wanted to do, which was like get a reverse on the following turn if I played it at all. This could probably still be the Katara. It like doesn't affect the yellow ratio that much. Like you could like easily like get rid of it or throw something else in, but I think I'd rather just keep the Aang to get into our climax for the next turn, because outside of pants and climax swap, we don't have any other climax assurance. So I think this is probably a better role player here. It's only 10-5, so your opponent can reasonably beat over it with something or edge over it with like something else so that you'll have a reverse for Azula the next turn. Top stock swap just to have it, gives us a little bit more green for a salami hit. And then Azula, you've probably heard people talk about this already. This is the easiest finisher to pair with the Sokka for extra attack because her cost is pay 1 sack a character when she gets a reverse. So if you have the Sokka on the board, you probably already have the Ty Lee from a standby trigger earlier, so you can use the standby when you standby it out. If you don't need the power from an Iroh or a second Ty Lee, you can standby out a Sokka, park it in the back row, swing with Azula on reverse, pay 1, sack the Sokka, you get the burn, the top deck your opponent's character, burn 3, then resolve Sokka's effect, put another Sokka from your deck in the front row, attack with Sokka. If you trigger another standby, put a Sokka back out to the back row. Azula, sack the Sokka, do it all again, over and over and over and over. You can push like somewhere like up to like 11 or 12 instances of damage with this, I think. Which weirdly, because it's on standby, you're swinging like 2, maybe 3, 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, 1, maybe 2, 3, 1, maybe 2, 3. You get actually really good numbers for like chipping out the end game, and you get like a lot of reach from doing this, because when you go for it, the game's pretty much over. Azula getting reverses all the time might be a little suspect. If it is, you really easy fix: drop the Ty Lee, put in the Iroh, drop the Azula, put in the restander, the Zuko restander. The Zuko restander has a way to dig for triggers to also pair with the Sokka, although that's not like as big of a draw to that. But Azula has the higher ceiling. They're both healers, very similar cards. Trying to play both, I think it's a little overzealous. I think it requires you to have way too good of a game on average to try to play both cards, or play some sort of split. I messed around with like split standby with the boys, bringing out the boys and doing the level down. The level down doesn't play well into the Azula stuff. It's just like way too much has to go right. It's just not like how I like to play it. Seems like way too pie in the sky for me. But even just like with my minimal testing that I have, I got maybe like 8-10 games on Avatar so far. There has not been a game, even in my fastest games, where I wasn't able to do like at least double Azula and some extra Sokka attacks to like try to drag back the game. And some of those games I've won, some of those games were like too far gone because of like bad opens and like not having good opportunities to filter and stuff like that, or not being able to mill out. But hopefully with this variation on it, with the salami, with the Aang that mills 4, I'll be able to be in better deck states more often to like maybe get that one little extra turn to like go for like the biggest nut Azula turn that I can. Which, you know, there's a lot of X factors there. Can Azula get the reverse? Can Azula get to that? You can always go a little bit more muted and go for the restander. But I think playing the salami and playing the Aang is probably the only way to have enough like filterable into deck speed that you can like, you know, continue to play the game. Like you can pick these cards up, have them in your hand. They're like fine to slam down if you need to mill cards, and just go that way, because at least like Salami's always coin flipping for a plus, the Aang is always coin flipping to at least be a twin driver. You're doing something with these cards.
Yeah, I think the standby pairs really nicely with the Sokka too, as like an extender. And the fact that you have the Avastar State Aangs that also count as standbys, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, like
he counts as standby, right? Like, and because he counts as standby too. So you have like a lot of standby triggers are triggering. So like even if you're not sacking stuff off with Azula, depending how many standbys you hit, you can just like standby out a Sokka into a lane, and then like when you hit another standby, just standby over the Sokka.
And like you have such good options for your climax swap when you're playing the 2-1 and the Sokka, right? When they're part of your finisher line. Where if you look at your waiting room and your Sokkas are still in deck, because like usually they are, you aren't like trying to like grab this card or hold on to it because you don't have to. That's the best part about Sokka, about some versus like IMA for the finishing lines, right? IMA, you have to set it up. You have to like very deliberately put that card back in your deck. But as that Sokka, you just leave him. Like there's like 1 in your grave, cool. 2 in your deck, sick. That's all you need. You're good to go. Because he can summon any costless card to just keep attacking. He doesn't have to summon himself. But extra standbys you bring up mid attack phase to sack off with Azula. Like as long as you're sacking off a Sokka, you pull out anything to attack. And then when you hit another standby with your other Azula, sack the Sokka you pulled out with a standby. Keep going, keep adding attack. And then those cards attack, right? So you get more Sokkas out. As much damage as you can take without dying is how many extra attacks you can do. So if you have Sokkas still in your deck and you're already climax swapping into your standby with the Momo, pretty normal, especially when you're playing a deck with pants and you have these extra triggers added to your deck with the Aang, right? That like, oh, well, like I'll just add the pants and I'll climax swap into the next turn. Totally normal line. You don't need that much stock for Azula. You need 1 stock floating to do full combo with all the Sokkas that you could ever attack with. You only need 1 stock floating to do everything with Azula.
Azula healing too is nice because it, you know, heals you, so you then have some room to play with to get the Rickies off.
You can just shuffle back 2 2-1 Aangs. It's like shuffling back climaxes on your finisher turn when you do your climax swap. You can shuffle back Aang, shuffle back Sokka, shuffle whatever you need. Like the finisher turn is like the best part of the deck. It's like the smoothest part of the deck is like going for the finisher turn. Everything else is kind of like pins and needles. But you know, it's a build. Maybe this isn't the right way. But I think that pivoting towards this like sort of color hell like payoff is like the right way to like, you know, get a little bit more consistency in terms of deck state and like filtering. Because when you have more mill, the issue with the Suki, right, as the Suki being like your primary like filter to like get climaxes and dead cards out of your hand, that card being your best filter, because let's be honest, the 1/0 Sokka, even if you're not slamming a climax, is going to be one of your attackers. That's just how this deck's going to go. You can put that card down if you have more mill that you're doing in the early game with stuff like the 1/0 Aang, stuff like the Salami, whatever. With the Zuko Riki, there's probably more Sokkas in your grave because you're milling more than the average Avatar deck. So the Suki will be live as a target to ditch more often. And if that's not enough filter, we can do a little bit of shaving. Maybe shave like a Zuko Riki, maybe even shave one of the 2/1 Aangs, although I wouldn't want to do that. It's probably a Zuko Riki and one of the 1/0 Aangs. And there is a really cool 1/0 blue Sokka where you can discard a card, any card, and summon a level 0. But what this card also has, this card's a 1/0 3500. This card has on attack pump anything on your field for the entirety of your field times 500. I don't know if it's misworded. I don't know if it's a mistake, but it actually makes the card pretty sick because that means it's a 1/0 that can attack for 6k, or you can buff any other card on your board 2500. So that's another card that I've considered throwing in here for a little bit of extra blue.
Yeah, I guess I have one like final question, I guess, about it. It kind of ties into like the 2/1 Aang.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, I had it in my deck as a 1 of, and you said it's like a 4 of or a none of, which I get the reasoning for that. But I think like being married to that isn't necessarily correct either. I think you could go to 3 or even 2 if you wanted.
Yeah, because it's just
and the reason,
triggers.
well, the reason I say it though too is because like, so those Aangs, right? The 2/1 Aangs, they count as like extra standbys in your deck, right? So you have all these standbys, but what are you standbying out? You don't really have any targets. Like, I think for me, just like at a glance, like what would make me feel better is like maybe turning at least like one of those 2/1 Aangs into like another 2/2 Iroh or like another standby target of some kind.
Just so that you have something at 1, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you have all those standbys and nothing to actually put on the table with it.
Well,
until,
the
like,
secret with the 2/1 Aang is that it's only a standby if you have the standby down, which isn't very common before your finisher turn.
True, but I mean, if you go to play it down for whatever reason, or if you just trigger a standby throughout the game. Also, the Aang himself is a fucking terrible standby target because again, he doesn't have a soul on him, so he's like a useless card to actually put onto your field. And finally, and I don't know how much you need the Aang in the sense that when you clock him, it's really good to get like some extra stock. But as you said, you don't really use a whole lot of stock. You just need 1 floating for the Azula. So like you're building up all this stuff. You have all these standbys but no targets. You have all this stock but no need for it.
Yeah, I mean, you do a lot of brainstorming for deck speed in this kind of deck. You do a lot of things like that. Maybe you have to hard play the Ty Lee, something of that nature. But I get what you're saying. Yeah,
like I haven't tested with it or anything, but just like at a glance, that's like the one thing that kind of like stuck out to me.
Yeah, you're like stock compressing with nothing to use it on. I get you. That's definitely something. I mean, the list could definitely.
The Ty Lee's a good standby target too, but
the deck could definitely stand to be improved. But I think that like something with adding these like horse mill color cards is like what's gonna fix the deck state problem. Just got to figure out how to do it. All right, and I think we've spent enough time here to wrap up. Upcoming content, we got to do Chainsaw Man, we got to do Azure Lane, we got to do so many sets. We're gonna get to those once they get back from One Piece regionals. We'll be able to schedule those out, maybe knock out a couple in a week where we have like 2 days to record or something like that, and we don't have locals that are 1-star because that's every other week. We'll be able to get that done. If you want to test this and plenty of other sets, there's Weiss Fight as well as the automated simulator. You can check those out. We have videos covering those. Definitely give those a look. Andy, you got anything else in the close?
No, that's it for me.
All right, Pittsburgh White Sports signing off. We'll see you all in the next one.